All right. So, last class, we listened to Lauryn Hill's song, Everything is Everything, and we thought about and created a massive list of thematic topics, which I posted in Classroom under our whole class analysis practice, right? Change, faith, power, patience, delusion, perseverance, struggle, youth, love, control, etc., right? We came up with this huge list of possible, more or less, topics that Lauryn Hill is trying to touch on in this song. Now, our goal for today, based on hopefully your annotations that you created for today, is to decide which of those topics that we came up with, and you might come up with one maybe that we didn't even list last class. That's okay, all right? But to decide which one of those central messages is most important or relevant to you, right? Which one of those messages is most relevant to you? Because the theme is the central message of a work, it's not necessarily the same as the subject, which might be expressed like we did last class. We just came up with topics, right? I called them themes, but for our purposes, they were more so just topics, right? Courage, survival, love, war, pride. A true theme or a thematic statement expresses something about that topic, okay? So the theme is the idea the author wishes to convey about the subject. So what about change, right? Does Lauryn Hill want to say? Yes, the theme of something is a meaning or the meaning of the work. However, right, we came up with 20 different themes, right? There can be multiple meanings that a text has. It doesn't just have to be one meaning. And that's kind of the whole point of what we're doing, is that we're going to come up with a whole bunch of different meanings based on this song. Generally, a theme or a thematic statement says something about life in general, right? Like, what about the human experience? What about our society? What about our culture? And more or less, everything in the text should work, everything in that song should be working towards supporting that idea, right? Which is why you're going to use your lyrics to prove the thematic statement that you ultimately come up with. Nothing, especially in the lyrics that you choose, should go against or contradict that theme. So the lyrics you choose should be used to support whatever thematic statement you come up with. Again, can have more than one theme, and it's generally not directly stated, but implied, which is why we had to do some thought work last class. Like, well, what is Lauryn Hill talking about, right? A good song, or a song worthy of analysis, uses a lot of figurative language, right? Which means that the theme might not be super obvious. So here's an example of how love and also evil might appear in a theme statement. If we consider love is a topic of two different novels, right? A major theme in one of the novels could be love, if taken to extremes, can be negative rather than positive, right? That novel is focused on love, but it says something very specific about love. While in the other novel, the theme might be love can conquer even the greatest evil. So both novels have a thematic topic of love, but they have both very different things to say about love. And we're going to take it a step further today, and you're going to try to take your topic or topics and say something about them. All right? What do we have to say about them? So, we did this last class, right? Starting the theme of a work of literature. We began by listing some of the topics, came up with a massive list, and then we need to try to combine those topics with comments that reflect the author's observations about human nature, Lauryn Hill's observations about human nature. What is Lauryn Hill saying about those topics that we came up with, right? These topics that we came up with don't really say a whole lot, right? What do we have to say about deception? What do we have to say about hierarchy? That was a great one, by the way. What do we have to say about education and connection and struggle? These are just words right now. We need to decide what Lauryn Hill is saying about those topics, okay? So that's kind of where we take it a step further today. We need to show and reflect on what Lauryn Hill is trying to say about those topics. What do they believe to be true about those topics? Now, what is a theme not? And this is something that as we're writing our theme statements today, and as I start to look them over when I'm back in class on Wednesday, it is not a moral or command, right? It shouldn't tell us how to behave, right? It shouldn't tell us how to behave. You can avoid this by trying to, if you find yourself saying a word like should, right? Everyone should believe in change because it's awesome, right? If you find yourself and you read your statement back and it feels like a command, like you're telling someone to do something, it's probably not a thematic statement, it's a command, right? You're telling somebody to do something. It should be an observation. It should make a comment. It's an observation. You're not telling somebody to do something, you're telling or observing how something is. It also shouldn't be a common saying, like actions speak louder than words, or any other kind of cliche statement. We don't want to come up with cliche statements or common sayings because that's not a unique thematic topic or thematic statement. All right? It should be your own original thought and idea. It should be something that's interesting, maybe even a bit philosophical, that you can come up with by yourself. All right? Not a common saying. Avoid common sayings. Of course, it should be specific to the text. If it doesn't refer to the specific, it shouldn't refer to specific characters or plots in the text. All right? I misspoke here. A theme actually should not be specific to the text itself. Okay? So, a thematic statement that we come up with for Lauryn Hill's song could be applied to possibly other literary works, maybe not even songs. All right? So, it should be general. It should be able to be applied. It shouldn't reference the text specifically. In other words, your thematic statement shouldn't reference Lauryn Hill or her song. It should be general. It should be able to translate to other pieces of text, right? You want to keep the language within your thematic statement general. This is another one, along with commands that students often find themselves doing. Using absolutes like always, everything, all the time, none. Those are absolutes, right? They're similar to commands in that they narrow and kind of put limits on the thematic statement, right? Nothing is ever an absolute. Nothing is ever an absolute. My mom would always say, always and never are strong words. And it's true, right? Most of the time, always and never don't actually apply. So you could say sometimes or can. Try to keep your language kind of open and avoid those words that make something absolute or impossible. Avoid absolutes. They should be reasonable, sometimes, often, convey the complexities of the human experience. All right. Now, here's our formula. How do we create a thematic statement? There's 3 parts. You have your thematic idea, all right, or thematic topic. Probably should say thematic topic, all right, so change. Then the second part of that is your statement about the idea, all right, so change, what do we have to say about change, and then a qualifying clause. Here's an example, 2 examples. Sorry for the glare on the screen. Courage, if courage is our thematic idea, what do we have to say about courage? Courage allows people to attempt difficult tasks in their lives. That's fair. If somebody's courageous, it gives them the strength to allow them to attempt difficult tasks in their lives. Now, the last part is what makes it not just a general statement, right? If we just left it at courage allows people to attempt difficult tasks in their lives, that just feels kind of it almost feels almost like an absolute, right? We need to make it a little more specific, which is the last part, our qualifying clause. Even when there is a chance of failing. So when does courage allow people to attempt difficult tasks in their lives? Even when there's a chance of failing. We could say a lot of things about what courage allows people to do, but for this specific person who wrote this thematic statement, this is what courage means to them. All right, if independence is our idea, right? Independence. Independence could be seen as freedom. It could be seen as freedom to be yourself, whatever it is. Let's see what their idea is. Is necessary to grow up. So now we're talking about like how we develop as people as it relates to independence. And then our qualifying clause, if we just left it, independence is necessary to grow up, who's going to argue with that, right? It's too general. Independence is necessary to grow up, though it can be scary at times. Now, these two examples are just meant to give you like a base formula. I would not say these are the strongest examples, all right? But big thing to note here is thematic idea plus statement about the idea. What do you have to say about that idea with a qualifying clause? The qualifying clause clarifies and makes the statement a little bit more specific. All right, so what you're going to be doing, and I want you to do it on the back of the song analysis sheet that you're going to get, I want you to start trying to write some thematic statements using this formula, all right? Now, the cool thing is you can use multiple topics, if I can get out of here, you can use multiple topics on this sheet that we came up with. And you might have a topic that we didn't even write down that you want to use, okay? And you can, when we think about our formula, when we think about this formula, thematic idea plus statement about the idea plus qualifying clause, when you're trying to decide which word you want to start with, it should be the one that you think the song is most about, all right? What do you think for you is the song most about? Now, we didn't write this down, but this was an example that I came up with, and it's posted here. My thematic idea would be social empowerment, all right? So for me, I see Lauryn Hill's song as she's trying to empower others, right? Trying to lift others up and empower them and give them strength. So for me, and you can see this in the whole class if you look and read through the directions, social empowerment is my thematic idea or topic. What do I say about it? Social empowerment can occur when citizens come together to challenge and question systems of power. Okay, so social empowerment happens when people come together and challenge and question systems of power. Now, you'll notice power is another word. And I also used, I think, change, maybe not, but also struggle for change. So I used like 4 different thematic ideas within my statement. My qualifying clause, even when it may feel like the struggle for change has no end in sight. There are lyrics within Lauryn Hill's song where she talks about, the ones on top won't make it stop, so convinced they might fall. But there's also moments where she's uncertain that change will ever come, right? So you can take a look at that one as an example, all right? But on the back of your sheet, I want you to try to come up with at least 5 different thematic statements. And after you do that, and the reason I want you to do it on the back is because ultimately you're going to choose one and put that on the front. All right, that will be your thematic statement. But I want you to have choices because this is something that takes practice. From what I recall last semester, this is a little challenging. Start with a thematic idea. The slideshow that I have that I went through is posted with the formula. All right. These topics that we came up with are posted in the whole class song analysis. All right. So I want you to try to write at least 5 different thematic statements on the back of your sheet. And then I want you to choose the one that you think is the best. All right. The one that you think is the best. After you do that, this is the sheet that you will get and what it will look like. you will be getting a paper copy of this. Your thematic statement will go in the middle, and then you have 5 different examples here. I want you to choose your lyrics for those 5 different examples. So based on the thematic statement you choose, and it probably doesn't really matter the thematic statement you choose, it does a little bit. I want you to choose 5 different sets of lyrics that you think speak to or explain why that is a good thematic statement or topic for the thematic statement that you chose. All right. Hint, right? The lyrics that I told you, and I think I told you, some lyrics to focus on in your annotations, the ones that use figurative language, the ones that don't quite have a clear meaning, those are going to be good choices. Now, don't choose massive sections of lyrics. I would say limit yourself to 2 lines, all right? Because the more lyrics you choose, eventually you're going to have to explain how they support your theme statement. And if you choose a massive chunk of lyrics, it's hard to break that down, okay? So, on the back of this sheet, I want you to try to write 5 different theme statements using the ideas that we came up with in class, right? Using those themes and using the formula that I just discussed, right? On the back of the sheet, try to write 5 different theme statements. So 5 different sentences. Maybe they're pretty similar, okay? Maybe they're pretty similar. Once you've written those 5, I want you to choose your best one. You can copy that over to the front side of your page in the middle section. And then your last task for the day would be to choose your lyrics, your 5 different lyrical examples that you're going to use to prove your point, okay? Once that is finished, if you have extra time, you can free read. Please put your names on the sheets that you will be getting. And then over by the door, we have those bins, all right? It's the second row, I believe, on the left is 4A. Make sure that you put those in the bin, your sheets in the bin before you leave, all right? Good luck, and I will see you on Wednesday.